We're going to go below the Smurfs.
And it's, hey, y'all, glad you're here chasing relevance.
I'm Scott Eastman, got Dr. Bledsoe here, and Dr's in character today. We're doing kind of a fun Friday talk, and we're probably going to do this more than once. Actually, I know we are. We're going to do this quite a few times.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about our favorite movies from time to time. This week, I'll bet you can guess, we're going to talk about Westerns. And oddly, or maybe not oddly, we pretty much agree on how we rank these movies. There's not a lot of debate between us, but should be fun anyway, just to kind of share our thoughts on how we look at each of these movies and why we think they're good, from the directors to the actors to the cinematography and the way they were shot. Some of the one-liners that came out of them are pretty good. So
man.
Yeah. Where do you want to start, Dr?
Man, I tell you, so we're going to be going through different genres. You know, every so many weeks we'll hit a genre and go through them. But yeah, like Scott was saying, we're going to hit on the Westerns. And, I think one of the things that we were talking about, Scott, and for me to really get into a Western, because I mean, in all reality, I'm not like real tough to please when it comes to movies with like just a good story and something that I enjoy to watch, But like with Westerns, I really got to be able to get into the actor portraying a character, and it has to be believable, and it has to be something that I could be like, okay, yeah, I would, I could see this dude being a real dude,
Right. Yeah. I mean, and knowing just from your own background, that could actually happen. This could have actually happened.
Yeah. And just guys being able to actually play the part of a cowboy that's believable. Because there's a lot of actors out there that they've tried to do some cowboy characters, and they're just hard to buy into.
Yep. Do you ever critique on the level of like how well they ride, or how well they like small technical things, like they don't wear their hat like that, or they don't wear their whatever, just things like that. Do you find yourself in that?
Yeah,
that kind of?
Well, sometimes I do. Like some people will point out things like, oh, the tack wasn't quite matching the actual time period and all that.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like not as big a deal. Only reason I say that is because when I've been a part of making short films that were Westerns, I had zero to nothing. I mean, little to nothing for tack that met the period of time. So I didn't worry about it. Yeah. But like when you watch those and you watch a guy, an actor, I mean, you can tell a guy who can sit in the saddle and really ride, who's a horseman, who knows how to ride, quiet with their hands. And of course, Hollywood is super bad about, jerking, a horse's head off kind of thing, because none of those guys know.
Right.
So you definitely can pick up on who's actually a hand, who's not, who's actually been in the saddle a little bit, who's just faking it and trying to make it.
Sure. Well, so let's start with let's go through 4 or 5 of our tops, and you start with number 1. Like I said, we agree definitely on the top 5, maybe slightly out of order for me, but number 1 is number 1. And there's no debate.
Yeah.
So you go with it.
So this is kind of like defining America.
No question.
You got apple pie. You've got baseball / football. America's sport, however you define that. And then you have Lonesome Dove.
That's right. Then you have Woodrow F. Call and Augustus McCrae.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I mean, it's almost un-American to if someone says they've never seen it.
Oh yeah, I can't be friends. I can't. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. Sorry. This ain't gonna work.
They're like Augustus who? I'm like, sorry, you gotta go.
Yeah.
You're out of here.
No. So so no doubt, for me, yeah, Augustus McCrae, that character, and Captain Call. I mean, those guys were a couple of the coolest Western characters ever.
Absolutely. And they were polar opposites, and best friends in the world. Which I thought was awesome. And it was probably the best for me. It was probably the best Western I had seen up until then. Like, I think this came out in 1989, and for me it blew everything away. And this came out. It was a 4-part miniseries, and it was on television. So if you watched it the original way, it had commercials. You watch an episode, and then you wait till the next. I think it was 4 nights in a row. So it was very different than it is now, where you can pull it up on Netflix and watch it start to finish, with no commercials. And I prefer
it's not even recognized. It's not even recognized when you pull up Western movies, greatest Western movies of all time. It's not even recognized because it's considered a miniseries.
Correct.
But really, in the category of Westerns, it should be right there in every one of them.
It is in my book. There is no other. It's never been done that well. And that from the storyline to the way it was shot, to some of the some of the memorable lines that came out of it. But for me, the casting was spot on.
Oh yeah.
The scope of the cast, every night, you would see a new face that you've already recognized somewhere. Like for me, I was actually really up until that point, I was a huge Lethal Weapon fan. Loved the Lethal Weapon movies. And when I saw Danny Glover on a horse, I was like, wait, this doesn't even make sense. But he was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you've got stars at that time like Tommy Lee Jones, Robert Duvall, Diane Lane, Angelica Houston, Danny Glover, Robert Urich, who was big at the time. And then all of these others Steve Buscemi, he's massive now. Mm-hmm. On Empire Boardwalk or whatever that series is he's in, but what he's done since then, they were relatively unknown back then, and it blew me away.
The dialogue in that between Cole and Gus, and just the lines, and
so great.
There's so many people I know that have got these lines memorized and can just recite them, because they're so memorable. It's one of the best written, for lines, stories, for sure.
Yep. Actually, my favorite line, I think, in the whole thing is McCrae, and he says, "It ain't dying I'm talking about, it's living." And I'm just like, yep. And And you want to, it's funny because I have a tendency to think about these characters as real people.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, he'd say that. Gus would say that.
Yeah.
Or it's just, or McCrae, he's like, what does he say? I hate rude behavior in a man.
Yeah.
Won't tolerate it.
Won't tolerate it. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Oh,
my favorite by far.
So here's how much, I love this movie. In fact, I got an old rodeo buddy who did kind of something similar. But my oldest son, when we went to have our first, and we had a lot of troubles trying to have our first. We had some, miscarriages and things along the way. And when we had our first, and we knew it was going to get real, and I said, babe, I really want to name this first boy a name I just have thought about for years. And she said, well, okay, but you give up all rights of naming any others.
Oh, yeah.
So.
And you said, okay.
I was like, that's fine. That's fine. So I named my firstborn, my son, Colt McCrae. His middle name McCrae after Gustus McCrae.
McCrae Bledsoe? It doesn't get any, that's a star's name.
Yeah, he thinks so.
Bledsoe. That's awesome.
So I got a buddy, an old rodeo buddy of mine, neat dude, Marty. He named his son Cray. Cray Campbell
after the same.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So that's a tough name. But yeah, so yeah, that's the kind of stuff sticks with you forever.
What's your number 2?
So my number 2, it's actually kind of considered in anti-Western, but it's a Western, and I would say it's probably Lonesome Dances with Wolves.
Yep. I agree. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
That movie, in fact, Dances with Wolves, for some odd reason, really reached in and touched me. I struggled getting through that movie. It was just hard for me. And there were a couple of different times in that movie where I couldn't hold it back.
Yeah. I get it.
It was so heart-wrenching from both perspectives,
right?
From Kevin Costner and Graham Greene, and both of them struggling to understand each other. And for me, one of those moments was when they're pretty well into the movie where they're talking about Kevin Costner's trying to explain to him that the white man is coming and there's nothing they can really do about it. And Graham Greene's character Kickingbird says, "How many?" And Kevin Costner kind of just says, "Like the stars."
How many?
And the look on Graham Greene's face,
like the stars,
just it killed me. It just pulled my heart out.
Yeah, the acting in that movie was outstanding. I thought
it was amazing.
I mean, Costner has a way, and we'll go back and I want to go over this. Some of these actors I think have been really great actors throughout the Western, some of the old school actors, and I got a list of them to run through. But Costner had a way, the way he brings a character kind of grows on you, because like at first you'll always just be like, it's all right, So the more you get into the story and the more you watch how he just plays out these characters, the more he just draws you in, and he just kind of sucks you in, and by the end of it, you're like, man, this guy's good, that's how he is for me.
Yeah, just like in the episode we talked about for Love of the Game. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah, he's just incredibly talented. And he directed this. So
yes,
there's a whole different, level of his involvement and his creativity and his idea and his vision.
Yes.
And for me, also, the other thing about that one was the cinematography and the landscape that they filmed in was breathtaking.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, and just like you had talked before, I think you had mentioned some things. We had talked about, just the American Native Indians and just their whole culture and their history and all that. There's so many things there, so many neat things to appreciate and learn from. But watching that movie kind of help you understand it a little more. It
does, absolutely, yeah, for sure. It's hands down my number 2, no question.
Yeah.
It was just one of those movies that really touched me.
So what do you think might be coming into number, from here on out, it's kind of like there's just a few that I just really, really love. I can't say they're necessarily in order to them.
Correct.
But these are all like in my top 10. Yeah,
because I do love pretty much anything that Clint Eastwood did or has done. Even like back to Fistful of Dollars and The Outlaw Josie Wales and Good, Bad, and the Ugly and all those. Regardless of what people thought at the time, even now, if I go back and watch those, I'm still sucked in by him.
Yeah.
And it's just I think it's just his presence, the way he commands the movie, the screen and his presence as a character. They're all good. I don't, and then you go to like Unforgiven but I agree that once we get into 3, 4, 5, 6, they're pretty much interchangeable for me.
Yeah.
Because they're all equally good in their own ways, and to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Clint Eastwood, and when I wrote down the actors and some of the things that I think what we liked about him, Clint Eastwood, he made a heck of a good career on just giving a look and just without saying anything, the looks he would give,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Literally, he didn't have to say a word.
Yeah.
And you'd be tremoring like, oh,
And he wasn't just saying a word, but he was saying a lot,
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, there are some movies where he probably didn't have 40 lines.
Yeah.
It's just about his presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pretty much anything he's done, I'm in.
For sure.
I know you're a big John Wayne fan. I like his movies too. None of them really, I think it was McClintock, but I'm not positive. Is that the one where he punches the horse?
That's one of the really good ones.
Is that where he punches the horse?
Gosh, man, I'll be honest with you. I wrote down McClintock because I was talking to my buddy, and him and I got really similar taste on movies. And
Yeah.
Ryan said that's one of his tops. And I know I've seen it, but like I told Ryan, a lot of these movies run together for me.
Yeah.
And I got to go back and watch them again and kind of remember which one's which. Kind of like the spaghetti westerns, a lot of them run together for me. I need to go back and kind of revisit them. And they're movies I want to revisit with my boys. And some of them I just got to wait till they're a little older.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. So where do you put, let's say, Unforgiven, Tombstone? Because those are more in I think closer timeline wise, and then we can go to some of the older ones like Jeremiah Johnson and Butch Cassidy and those that are back like in the 70s.
Yeah. So once I get past my first two, one of my favorites, and it's a John Wayne movie, and it's probably my favorite John Wayne movie, it's called The Cowboys.
Okay.
And if people haven't seen that, you need to go find it and you need to watch it because it tells a really neat story. Men are off fighting a war, and this rancher realizes it's time to get his cattle to the market, but he needs some hands. Oh. So he walks into the school building, in the schoolhouse, and he's basically like, any of you that are at least this tall, I need you to come out and, work for me kind of thing. And so he basically has whoever is a certain height come out and try to, cover some bronky horses to show they can break one. And if you could cover it, you were hired.
Wow.
And it's just how all these boys from some young little boys to high school type guys, how they earned their way and how they became men through this journey of driving these cattle. And John Wayne, he's hard. He's a hard dude. And they give him the nickname. They give him the nickname Iron Nuts.
In the movie?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And
it has a bunch of lines, a bunch of really good, memorable lines, and a really neat story and a journey about, these boys becoming men.
And he was a big man, he was like 6'4".
Yeah, I don't remember actually his stature.
I think he was a guy that just commanded the presence, I think he was a big dude in real life.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to say what size he was because I know they always match up actors,
Yeah.
With different people to make him look big. But I know, but the thing about him is his presence,
his swagger. He has swagger.
His swagger, dude.
Yeah.
6'4", buddy.
Yeah, he was a big guy.
Yeah. It says others insist he was 6'5" or 6'6", but they say he was 6'4". That's a tall man.
That is, yeah. Especially when you're that tall and you talk the way he does, people listen.
So here's the funny thing is when he was in his prime, they said he was about 6'4" and only weighed like 170 pounds. He apparently was a leaner guy, but I think when he was younger, they made him look.
Sure. Yeah, because I think McClintock, he looks like he's pretty beefy.
Right. Yeah. As he got older, he definitely put on some lbs.
Yeah.
But you go from there, the Cowboys, and then there's a handful of John Wayne movies that I really like. Like my boys, they cackle at a lot of the John Wayne movies when it's kind of a comical. Like I think in North School, Alaska, when like John's getting in fights with guys and he's hitting guys, and like my boys, I can remember when they were this little, they just cackle when old John Wayne would hit somebody, because it was always kind of a comedic type fight scene,
Yeah, sure.
And,
well, the one is it in McClintock where they're fighting in the mud pit?
See, that's the thing, man.
And they're all sliding down the hill into the mud pit and trying to climb back up. And I think that's the right movie.
Yeah, I got to watch them again because they all run together. But like, you go into, like you mentioned, Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood. Man, that is a great one. And I think I liked Clint's movies better when he started directing than when he was just acting.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, it was just more of his vision, his presence,
and everything he's done and made that he's directed. You can go into like Gran Torino and all these other ones he's done and directed stuff. Man, I just think there's some classics that he's done. I think the world of that guy. It stinks that we all got to get old. Right.
Yeah, and he is. He's got to be. Is he in his 80s?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, I think so. Again, though, look at the cast: Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, Richard Harris. Just it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when you get Morgan Freeman in something, it's usually going to be pretty good.
Yep. Again, yeah, for sure.
And then I go like into Tombstone, kind of the more modern movie westerns. But I mean, I really dug it. I thought Kurt Russell just played a really neat, Wyatt. And then of course everybody loved Val Kilmer. I mean, that was tough to be. And then of course you had Sam Elliott in there, and he's always good.
The quintessential cowboy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's always good.
That was actually another great cast for especially for a movie that's only it's a movie. It's not a series or anything like that.
That cast was outstanding.
What it was, that was the first movie I'd ever seen Billy Bob Thornton in.
Oh yeah.
And then he comes out in Sling Blade later, and I was like, whoa, different dude altogether.
Yeah. Old Billy Bob played a pretty good card dealer, and he got tuned on.
Yes, he sure did. Yeah, he did. So there you go. Another one of my favorite lines in any Western movie ever.
Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
Right.
That's the best.
I know it. It is. So there was a movie. I tell you who played a heck of a cowboy, I thought, and I really dug this movie. Was Quigley Down Under.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I ever saw that.
But you got to watch it.
That's another one. I could never picture Magnum PI as a cowboy.
Well, that's the thing. I had a hard time for a while too, and then when he did Quigley, Tom Selleck, he did a few Louis L'Amour movies.
Yeah.
Louis L'Amour stories that turned into movies, and he did a few of them, and I liked them. And then there was a couple I really liked, and I need to go back and look them up. But when he did Quigley, the way he had his hat and his look that he had, and his character and everything, it was a cool character, and I got into it, and I thought that was a heck of a movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely you got to check that out.
Awesome. Yeah,
your wife's gonna really like that movie because it seems like every woman out there loves watching Tom Selleck.
Of course they do. Yeah, it's the mustache.
Oh yeah, man.
So
if
what
I could
are
rock a mustache like that, I would, but my wife hates
it. What are your honorable mentions? Like ones that you saw, they were good, maybe not, totally authentic, but or they're funny, like Blazing Saddles or Silverado or something like that.
Yeah. I think I don't know which ones I'd mention right off. I mean, like I will mention a couple more that, like there was one that was not a mountain man, but you'd call it a Western, Jeremiah Johnson, all-time classic. Like it's in my top 10, of all-time classics.
Yep.
But here's the funny thing. So here's a movie that I have seen when I was a kid, but I have not seen this for a long time, and I need to go back and watch it. And that's old Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
I mean, I remember
Yep.
that being like a pretty good movie.
Yes, absolutely was.
But
That was yeah, I'm a big Paul Newman fan. Cool Hand Luke is one of my favorite movies of all time. But
yeah.
Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid was a great movie.
So here's this will kind of help us out. So here's like the IMBD top 20 list. Okay. And they put them in a certain order. They're saying, hey, this is the best. So the top,
Sure.
20, but these are just some of the movies that, make us think about some of the things we're talking. And of course, a few of these I haven't seen and I need to, or if I've seen, I've forgotten, but they listed like number 1, Forgiven, then The Searchers. That's a John Wayne movie.
Don't know.
I know I've seen it, part of it. I don't know if I've watched all of it. Then you've got, of course, the spaghetti westerns. You got The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Butch Cassidy. And then this one was mentioned in quite a few like top 10 greatest westerns of all times. Once Upon a Time in the West, and I have not seen that. That's a Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson. I mean, it's loaded with some great actors.
How old is it?
That was in '68.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay. Maccabee and Mrs. Miller, Winchester 73. That's a 1950s.
Holy cow.
Yeah, James Stewart.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with picturing him as a cowboy, but I get it.
He did it. He did it a few times for sure. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Oh yeah.
That was James Stewart again.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. True Grit. Now this is mentioning the actually 1969 version of John Wayne's version. And I tell you, the new version, I thought it was cool. The actor and that played him was cool. He's a neat guy. I like some of his stuff, some of his work. But I had a hard time really relating to that movie because I just knew it as John.
Was that Jeff Bridges?
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah. He's the Big Lebowski. He can't be cowboy. He's the dude.
And then Django. Great
movie.
There's a homeboy. Quentin
Django,
Tarantino.
the old one?
No, Django Unchained.
Unchained? Okay, yeah. That's that's an outstanding movie.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx and Leonardo.
Yeah.
That one was kind of a neat movie. Of course, it has Tarantino's twist on it. Of course, it's a bloody
it is
movie, like all his movies.
Yep.
And then one called Dead Man. This is like in '95. Johnny Depp. I have no idea about that.
Johnny Depp. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that one.
3:10 to Yuma.
Great movie. Russell
Crowe, Christian Bale.
That's a great movie. If you haven't seen that, you'll love it.
That was pretty good one. That was a pretty good one.
Absolutely was. Yep.
And then you got High Noon with Gary Cooper.
Oh wow.
This is back in the 50s.
Yep. Haven't seen that one.
Outlaw Josie Wales.
Classic.
That's 1976. Clint, more spaghetti stuff.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, there's one in 1939 called Stagecoach. It's an early John Wayne movie.
Really?
Yeah. And then
he was really young then.
Yeah, there's another one called Red River.
Don't know that one either.
48. That's a John Wayne. There's one in '69 called The Wild Bunch.
Oh yeah.
William Holden.
Yes.
Robert Ryan, Edmund O'Brien. Johnny Guitar. I saw this pop up in a few different greatest westerns of all time. It's a 1954 movie.
I don't know that
Joanne
one.
Crawford. She's a star in that.
Sure.
Yeah. And then, of course, they mentioned Tombstone right there coming in at number 20 on that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Young Guns isn't in the top 20?
Not on that one. Not on that one. But like if we go into like Rotten Tomatoes, it lists like the top 100.
Oh wow.
Based on rental ratings and all that.
Sure. Yeah. I wouldn't put Young Guns in the top 20 either, but I think it was an entertaining movie.
It was a fun movie to watch.
Yeah.
And there's some neat actors in there.
Absolutely. Yep.
So here's a couple of things that I mentioned. So kind of talking about like why we like some of these actors and why we like the Western so much. Like Robert Duvall. Yep. Like that dude in the movies he's done, like Secondhand Lions and Days of Thunder and of course, Lonesome Dove. Just some of the movies he's done, he has such a neat way of delivering his lines and how he portrays the character. And
Yep.
it's just a style that I think is really hard to beat.
Absolutely.
And of course he brought Gustus McCrae to life. Like, I don't think any other actor that would have tried that, they couldn't have touched what he did with it.
Nope. And I guess for me, what makes it believable is it doesn't feel like he's acting.
Right?
You know,
Like, you're pretty much sure that's him. That's who he is.
every day of the week. Because I've watched it a lot. I've seen it a lot, and every time I watch it, I see new things and little tiny. Even if it's just a facial twitch or a something, you know, like he does a lot of this.
Well, like,
That kind of thing. You can't teach that.
Yeah, he
That's
does.
just I can't. I don't think the director said do this.
Oh yeah, right.
There's no way. It's just
No.
it's like you said. It's how he built that character, and it's like I want to hang out with this guy.
Oh man, I know. It's like one of the things me and one of my buddies we'd always joke around about is how I made up a word, philosophy. My wife swears, she's like, that's not a word. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a word.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's not a word. And
It's
I'm like,
Gus's
well,
word.
I was like, I love sitting around and doing a little philosophizing or just philosophize a little bit about life or whatever, you know. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, just don't go using that in public.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's a word. It's a word in my book, in my dictionary.
Right on.
Because Gus McCrae used it.
You know, we talked about Clint Eastwood a little bit about how much he could say it was just a look without even delivering a line, just what he would say in the scene. And the thing I loved about Clint Eastwood is, again, he was an actor / director, and I really just respect those dudes that do that and those people that do that work both sides of the camera. I think it makes it for I really enjoy the experience in that. And that guy, just again, he has that look and that delivery. So believable. Like you would think if you met Clint Eastwood after all the movies he's done with Dirty Harrys and the Westerns, you would think that he is one of those guys. But you know,
I can tell you this, I've seen him in person. I've not met him, like talked to him, but he was involved in the first Sun Valley Film Festival.
Nice.
He is a no BS guy.
Yeah.
I think in real life he may be a little closer to the Gran Torino character.
Get off my lawn.
In his just, he's earned the right to be grumpy,
right?
You know, in this world, and he kind of is like that. He's just kind of a no BS. Like, don't waste my time. And he doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah. So when I was on a road trip, sometime in my 20s, I was on a road trip with some buddies. We flew into LA. Hooked up with the buddies going to college down at Cal Poly. We did a 10-day road trip up to Seattle.
Oh.
And on the way, we just stopped wherever we felt like.
Yeah.
Well, we stopped in at the time, I think it was Carmel, where he was mayor.
Yep. He
and,
sure
and
was.
We found out what his favorite restaurant was, and we went there for dinner, hoping we'd run into him.
Yeah.
Didn't happen, but we were hoping.
That's funny. Yeah, he's something else.
Yeah.
That's going to it'll be a sad day when we lose him.
Oh man, I'm bummed it's just happening.
All of them, actually. You know, I think about that too, and the older I don't feel like I'm old enough that these guys should be as old as they are and dying now.
Well, it's like Robert Duvall, you know, when you know, a movie that's in kind of the top mentions that, like, you know, it was an okay movie, but because of who was in it, I loved it. It was Open Range, okay, Duvall and Costner. Okay?
Yes, exactly.
But like they actually said that because Duvall was kind of dealing with, you know, just being in the saddle and things like that, and I think he had a little bit of injury or something. It was just tougher for him to play those parts where he had to be in the saddle, and it just was like, man, this stinks. These guys are getting older, but you know, it is what it is. But man, I just I'll miss him forever. Next guy that I was going to mention is Sam Elliott. That dude just looks cowboy.
Yep.
You know, he's got the awesome stash. He just looks tough. But you know, when he speaks, he's one of those kind of guys. When he speaks, people listen.
Absolutely.
You know,
it's
like what's for dinner, Sam?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He's again, you know, he's another one that has this screen presence.
Yeah, totally.
Even for me, he stole Roadhouse.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's just him. His character, Wade Garrett, basically a cowboy in modern day.
Yeah, he's kind of a Harley kind of cowboy,
Yep.
you know, kind of a, yeah.
Oh, Harley Davidson in the Marlboro Man.
You know what? I don't know if I've ever seen that.
You got to see it. Got to see it. Don Johnson and
Don Johnson, yeah.
And who else? Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just said when you just said he's a kind of a Harley cowboy, I was like, oh, there's another one that's.
Yeah, you know, I've seen that on the shelf a lot of times. I've never rented it.
It's funny.
So you know, of course, John Wayne. I think if you think about that dude, is he just had swagger, man. That dude had style.
Yep.
The way he'd say stuff, the inflection he would put on words, and you know, I mean that's why they called him the Duke. I mean, he was just the man.
Yep, exactly. There was no. I don't think there was much competing with him.
Yeah, I mean, just the. Well, let me tell you,
yep,
mister.
Exactly.
I mean, everybody tries to do a John Wayne impersonation.
Yep.
Nobody can, but it's fun to try.
Yeah. And the one line, and I don't know, I think it's actually from McClintock, is that whole.
I know. I'm going to use good judgment. I haven't lost my temper in 40 years. But Pilgrim, you caused a lot of trouble this morning. Might have got somebody killed. And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. The hell I won't.
No, but I tell you, just the way he delivered, you know, over yonder, you'll see Apaches for sure. You know, I mean, just the guy had such style. Costner, of course, I talked about him.
Yep.
You know, that dude just drew you in. He just drew you in, whether it was like Tin Cup or whether it was like one of his baseball show movies, or whether it was like the Western. Yeah, you know, I mean, he always, you know, Costner always has a really good way of drawing you in the scenes where, again, he's not saying a lot. He's thinking, he's processing, he's going through it, and you're kind of going through this journey with him. Right. And he's really good at that. He's really good at saying stuff without saying even a line. It just kind of sucks you in.
Yep, 100%.
And then Tom Selleck, we talked about him. That dude just had a cool look, kind of that all-American dude. Of course, he had the classic stash.
Yes. Well, that was kind of the cool part about Kurt Russell too, in Tombstone.
It was. Yes.
He had
big old stash.
He did a really good job for someone that I never would have put in that kind of a role. In my mind, I never would have imagined him as a badass cowboy.
Totally. It's funny. So when I was in college, was when Tombstone come out, there was a few guys that I was roommates with that I knew, and all of a sudden they were growing stashes out and doing the white look, and they even went and got like flat brim hats. And they were sporting the flat brim, black felt, just like the guys in the movies, and they were sporting them for a while. I mean, it looked good. I'm not gonna lie, it looked good, but yeah, it kind of became a fad for a little bit, you know.
Well, if I owned a cowboy hat, it would be a Gus.
Right.
Hands down. That's the only cowboy hat I can even imagine on my head.
We got to get you one, man.
We got to get one. Yep.
Heck yes. Heck
That's
yes.
funny.
Oh yeah. Well, man, is there any other westerns you think, or anything else worth mentioning out there?
You know, not off the top of my head. I mean, those are. I would guess that most people have seen at least the top three, but and like I said, if you haven't, I just can't be your friend.
You know, I'm gonna say, people, you need to go watch Lonesome Dove. Now, I will say you need to. You need to let your kids be a little older, in my opinion, because there's certain lines in there you don't want your 8-year-old going to school and saying.
Correct.
About cutting the cards or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I can't wait. I got 3 boys, ages 8, 10, and 12, and I'm gonna wait a little longer. But when we do watch it, I'm super stoked.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, any of these, you know, the John Wayne movies, all those you got to go see. But, you know, of course, the Cowboys. The Cowboys is a really neat movie. And it's funny. I had my boys watch it. And I probably had them watch it a little bit sooner than I should have. But I thought they would really get into it because it was about these boys and some of them their age.
Yeah.
But my one son, he had a tough time with it. And it's just because of the things that happen and 2 characters and all that. And what they go through. But it's a classic, man. I love that show. So if y'all haven't seen that one, you have to see the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go check that one out. I have not seen that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Perfect.
What's
Listen,
next?
This man, I was gonna say next round. I think we ought to go for like a genre of like comedies. You know,
Okay.
I think comedies would be fun to do. And I'm gonna admit something right now. Ever since I was like around 12 years old, for Mother's Day, I would take my mom out on a date, and I would take her to a chick flick.
Oh, cool.
Because she liked chick flicks, of course.
Sure.
But Dad wasn't super into going to a movie, especially paying to see a chick flick. If it was Rambo or Rocky or like
Yeah.
a Vietnam movie like Platoon, he was all about it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, he wasn't going to go watch those chick flicks. So I'd take her to chick flicks. I grew up with a great appreciation for chick flicks. We will have to have chick flick day.
We're doing it. We may have to do that next.
All right, let's do it.
Because I've seen them all.
Hey.
And I shed a tear now and then.
Don't even get me started. My wife gives me a hard time. She gives me a hard time, man.
Oh, hey, I've got 5 girls. They need to know that I can cry if I have to.
All right, man. Hey, this has been awesome. Hope y'all appreciate it and enjoyed this. Be sure and throw some comments out there if there were some Westerns we didn't mention or something that you just absolutely loved and you think it's a must watch, must see.
Definitely.
But for other than that, appreciate it. Thank you much.
Absolutely. And like always, we're on YouTube, but you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, LinkedIn, and hopefully soon iTunes. So give us a like, give us a share, throw some comments out there, throw some suggestions out there. If there's something you want us to talk about, especially in the movie world, but it really in anything, we're open to suggestions. And until then, we'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.